What's up YouTube, it's your boy back at it again with another video. I've been getting a lot of questions recently about what my thoughts are on Bitcoin mining, if I've ever tried it, and what my opinions are on some of the different options that are out there. So today in this video, we're gonna be covering how cloud mining contracts work. We're gonna be covering one of the popular plug and play Bitcoin miners. We're gonna be talking about how to effectively mine Bitcoin, and then I'm gonna be giving you some of my thoughts about whether or not it's even worth getting into Bitcoin mining in the first place. Go down below, smash the like button for Bitcoin mining education, and let's level up your brain. Okay, so first let's talk about cloud mining contracts. Basically, a cloud mining contract is you go to a company, in this case, Genesis Mining was the company that I went to, and that company has a bunch of mining rigs set up wherever their operation is, and they're basically selling you a contract where you are renting out some of the computing power for one of their Bitcoin miners. So this is a really quick and easy way to get exposure to Bitcoin mining, but let's take a deeper look at like how profitable it really is. So a few years ago, I bought an open-ended mining contract with Genesis Mining that cost me $427.76, and it yielded a little more than 0.03 Bitcoin. This gave me a cost basis of around $13,000 for that Bitcoin that I was generating with Genesis Mining. I first bought the contract in around June of 2017 when the price was around $2,800, and the contract was terminated by Genesis Mining on December 11th of 2018 when the Bitcoin price was around $3,500. To be fair, when Genesis Mining did cancel the contracts, they gave me the option of, hey, you can keep these contracts open, you just have to continue to pay us more money if you want to keep the computing space that you've already bought. And to be clear, when I initially bought the contract, there was no expiration date. Genesis Mining just determined 60 days before they canceled the contract that because my contract wasn't making them enough money anymore, that they were going to cut it off. I basically said that because I had learned my lesson by that point. If I had instead just bought $427 of Bitcoin back when the price was $2,800, I would have received around 0.15 Bitcoin, which is 5 times more Bitcoin than I got out of that mining contract. And this very concrete, hard math that is difficult to get around brings us to Rhett's first rule of Bitcoin mining. Patent pending that I'm finally releasing to the world. Rhett's first rule of Bitcoin mining states, only mine Bitcoin if you have access to cheap energy. And we'll see some examples later on of why Rhett's first rule of mining Bitcoin is excellent, not financial advice. And we'll see some examples of some people who have clearly heard of Rhett's first rule of Bitcoin mining and are running very successful mining operations. In the case of Genesis Mining, I personally did not have access to cheap energy. I was basically subsidizing Genesis Mining's access to cheap energy. I was getting a bad price because I wasn't the one turning cheap energy into Bitcoin, Genesis Mining was. On top of that, they had sole discretion of how long the contract could exist for, and then cut me out of the contract when it became not profitable for them to keep me anymore. Not your electricity, not your miner. Next, let's take a look at the sleek plug and play Bitcoin miner, the Coinmine 1. The Coinmine 1 is a plug and play Bitcoin miner that costs around $700 per unit, but you can get volume discounts when you buy lots of units at the same time. You can get 2 units for $630 per unit, you can get 5 units for $595 per unit, and you can get 10 units for $560 per unit. If you buy 10 of these things, I have a bridge in Brooklyn that I'm willing to sell you. When I first heard about the Coinmine 1 back in 2019, I was fascinated because I still hadn't learned my lesson from the experience with Genesis Mining. I love the idea of making passive income, and I loved the thought of, oh, I'm sitting on a beach, it's so warm, and back home, my 10 Coinmine 1s that are plugged into my kitchen are just making all my money for me, and I found this great business opportunity that no one else had stumbled upon, and I know so much about Bitcoin, I'm going to make so much money, it's gonna be so great. Don't think like that, that's dumb. Brings us to Rhett's second rule of Bitcoin mining. Use the best hardware available. These Coinmine 1s are apparently very easy to set up and a great novelty item to maybe get your friends or parents into Bitcoin mining, but the hardware is nowhere near as powerful as a professional mining rig. Even worse, the cost per hash rate of the coin miners isn't competitive either. You could get something for around the same price that's much more computationally efficient than the Coinmine. And that's because at the end of the day, you're paying for some of these sleek software features and the ease of setup of the Coinmine. So you're sacrificing some efficiency of, all right, this Coinmine isn't super efficient, but it is really easy to set up and start mining Bitcoin with, or start mining Ethereum with, or start mining one of the other coins that they let you mine with the Coinmine. This lack of efficiency, however, becomes a massive problem when the halving events happen in Bitcoin, which is where every 4 years, the incoming daily supply of Bitcoin gets cut in half. This means that every 4 years, miners continue to exert the same amount of energy and continue to cost the same amount to run, but are mining half as much Bitcoin. When this happens, inefficient miners on the margin get forced to turn off because they're no longer profitable. Eventually, and much quicker than top-notch hardware, inefficient miners like the Coinmine one will not be usable to mine Bitcoin. This could be the reason that the Coinmine blog and the Coinmine Twitter account stopped posting things only months after the 2020 halving event. At this point, after more than a year of silence from the company, I think it's borderline irresponsible to continue to run the website and take orders on these miners. And I think it's even more devious to have this goofy calculator that hasn't updated the all-time high price of Bitcoin on it on the front of their website telling people how much money they could theoretically make with the coin mine. What they obviously fail to mention is, all right, well, what else could you be doing with your $700? Oh, you could just be buying Bitcoin. And so the Coinmine one fails in the same way that that Genesis mining strategy does. When you don't have an efficient miner and when you don't own the cheap electricity, it's cheaper for you to just buy the underlying asset than try to force your way into, oh, I'm gonna create passive income with my little coin mine. It's fun, it can be a little game, but the ROI of buying something like this just isn't there. Again, not financial advice, this is just me doing math in public. Feel free to tell me why I'm wrong, but come on. All right, so enough negativity. Let's talk about how to mine Bitcoin correctly. There are tons of traditional Bitcoin mining companies that are killing it out there, but the one that I'm going to highlight is run by one of my favorite Bitcoin Twitter personalities, parabolic guy himself, Jason Williams. Jason wrote a book, Bitcoin, Hard Money You Can't With, that is a very easy to understand look into what Bitcoin is, why Bitcoin is useful, and then also Jason's background in running a Bitcoin mining operation. It's actually one of my favorite books to give to new people to learn more about Bitcoin because of how understandable it is. And so if you want to learn more about Bitcoin, or if you have a family member or a friend that might want to learn more about Bitcoin, I'll leave the link to that book down in the description. Anyway, Jason runs a company that gets rid of waste tires. 1.5 billion tires are generated as waste from various sources every year. About half of them are burnt, and that process releases a bunch of toxins and greenhouse gases. Some tires are processed into little rubber crumbs to be used in asphalt, and then other tires just end up in landfills. All of these processes waste energy and can be really bad for the environment. So Jason's company has a process where they heat up the tires to the point that they start to decompose instead of just straight up burning them. This process creates gas as an output, and then they capture that gas and use that gas to mine Bitcoin. And these are the kind of people that you're up against when you buy a Coinmine 1 or a Genesis mining cloud contract and think that you're going to profitably mine Bitcoin. The biggest Bitcoin miners are using the best equipment available. They're getting free or highly subsidized energy. In this case, the energy is generated as like an output of this other business that they're running, right? They're running a business that gets rid of tires, and they're generating all of this gas. They're capturing that gas and then using that gas to mine Bitcoin. So this is a free output of a business that's already profitable for them. And then thirdly, these people that are very successful Bitcoin miners are dedicating tons of time and energy to make sure that their strategy works and is profitable. So for everyone keeping score at home, you'll notice that Jason's method passes both of the Rhett's rules of Bitcoin mining. He's getting cheap or free energy, which means that once he covers the cost of his miners, all the Bitcoin that he mines is pure profit. And he's using top of the line mining hardware, which means that he's future-proofing his operation against future halving events. Ultimately, with mining, you're trading efficiency for convenience. It's very convenient to just buy some cloud mining contracts or buy a Coinmine 1, plug it in, sit at home and collect your little Bitcoins that trickle in whenever the companies decide to pay you. They're just not very efficient from a generating Bitcoin perspective, and so you're probably just better off buying Bitcoin. On the other hand, it's very inconvenient to start a company that melts tires and then capture the gas and figure out, okay, how do I engineer a system where I can get this gas into a Bitcoin miner, create electricity, and then mine Bitcoin with that output. But it's very profitable because you were gonna melt the tires anyway. You're already making the profit from that. You're getting this free stream of energy, you're capturing that, and you're turning it into Bitcoin. So once you've overcome the initial outlay of buying the Bitcoin miners, all of the Bitcoin that you generate in the future is totally free because you were going to create that energy anyway. Even with that in mind though, the hardware that's being generated today that's top of the line is going to be much, much worse and maybe not usable 20, 30, 50 years from now after all of those halving events happen. And that's the top of the line hardware. So if you think about what's happening if I'm getting a Coinmine 1 or some low end of the line hardware that's not very efficient, that end of the line, low slow, bad, not efficient hardware is going to be outcompeted by all of these top of the line options, and it's not gonna last as long. So you're spending more money per hash rate to get a worse product that won't last as long. At the end of the day, it just doesn't make any sense. Bitcoin mining is a pure efficiency game, and the most efficient miners are going to capture most of the gains from the market, because the miners that contribute the most computational hash rate to the network are going to be rewarded the most. Hopefully you guys learned something. You found this deep dive helpful. If you did, go down below and smash the like button so that YouTube can show this video to other people who have questions about some of these inefficient ways to mine Bitcoin. Comment down below if you think something that I said doesn't make sense, or if you have any questions, or if you disagree with me. I still do respond to all the comments. And then subscribe and hit the notification bell for new videos every Monday at 10 a.m. Eastern. I love you all. Goodbye.